Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name's Eloisa Ramos, and I am here with my friends Connie and Teresa and my daughter Sonia, and we are studying the text of A Course in Miracles. And we are on chapter 10, The Idols of Sickness. And we left off on this last section in that chapter, which is the denial of God. And we're in the middle of that. We're on paragraph 10. But I think we're going to just review a tiny bit since we're going to pick up from the middle of the section here. Okay, so it's talking about the denial of God as sickness. And basically sickness, we turn into an idol that is a substitute for God. So that's why it's saying here in the first line, the rituals of the god of sickness are strange and very demanding. So once we deny God, we are going to believe that we are no longer as we were created. So we're going to believe that we can be sick and that we can die because that's what bodies do, basically. Or the mind, the ego, can be mentally sick. So now it's talking about how demanding and strange these beliefs are, and what that kind of brings about. So joy is never permitted. Okay. So depression is a sign of allegiance to this god of sickness. And also that to deny God will inevitably result in projection. And you will believe that others and not yourself have done this to you. And that's pretty much what we believe when we are sick. We think that, a virus is doing it to me, or if I'm upset, I'm depressed. Well, it was because this happened, or so-and-so was mean to me, or, I lost my career, I lost my job, I lost something. And, I'm innocent. I didn't do it to myself. So that's what projection is that we project guilt for our misfortune, for our suffering, for our depression, for our sickness onto something that we perceive as separate from us as a body. Okay, so, and then it says that allegiance to the denial of God is the ego's religion. Let's see. And it's interesting that it says religion there. I was trying to remember, I think before we read something about the ego. Well, I can't remember what it was now, but anyway, it's basically saying that we worship the denial of God when we identify with our ego, almost like, having a religion. So let's see. The God, in line 2, the god of sickness obviously demands the denial of health. Yes, and remember that health is inner peace. So it would deny inner peace, which would mean that it would be basically loyal to conflict, in allegiance with conflict. And that's what the ego's survival depends on. It depends on division, conflict, and battle. That's why it says here that health is in direct opposition to the survival of the ego, because inner peace is a threat to the survival of the ego. And inner peace is the condition that we must meet in order to really open the mind to the Holy Spirit guidance, because otherwise the ego's voice is blocking that communication from our awareness. Okay, so let's see. Paragraph 4, sickness and death seem to enter the mind of God's Son against his will. Yeah, because, I mean, when we're sick, I mean, who wants to say, oh, yeah, I wanted this to happen to me? Who wants to take responsibility for bringing about their own sickness? That's the end of projection, right? We can't blame it on anybody. Not only that, but that would mean that we would have to recognize that the level of causality is our own mind. And it's the end of the belief in magic too. So in order to deny all of that, we almost have to believe that that sickness and death come to us against our will and not, with our consent, which is what the Course says. So 5, I said before that of yourself you can do nothing, but you are not of yourself. Okay. So this is now correcting the error here. Okay. It's reminding us that, so when we are sick, we do feel pretty powerless and pretty helpless, because we're trying to help ourselves the best way we can, obviously. So there's no need to feel guilty about it, but we're forgetting here that we're not on our own. And that's what this is reminding us. You are not of yourself, because we are not self-created. 6, Son of God, you have not sinned, but you have been much mistaken. So this is sort of what I was saying. There's no guilt here. A lot of times, when we're sick, the ego mind looks for, there's got to be something to blame. I mean, it's just like, okay, sickness, I feel vulnerable, I feel weak, I feel like I have been attacked. So who's the attacker? Who's the culprit here? Who do I get to? If I'm a victim of sickness and attack and misery and depression, who's the victimizer? Because that's how duality, the perception of duality works. It's always like, okay, if there's a victim, there's got to be a victimizer. So this is saying, look, error is not sin. You have been mistaken in the way that you have looked at yourself and identified yourself and seen yourself as a victim. Okay, but that's not a sin. That's just a mistake that can be corrected. So 7, your Father has not denied you. Okay, he does not retaliate. Okay, and a lot of times, we do believe that sickness comes to us as punishment from God, that it's retaliation, that because we're bad things happen, or at least we believe that bad things are supposed to happen to bad people, not to good people. Okay. And that's the belief that, it's punishment. Otherwise we wouldn't think that. And so it's saying here, look, don't, that's not true. Okay. Your Father, God, has never denied you. And he's not going to retaliate. So forget all that. He's just calling us to return to love. Okay, so let's see, number 8. Yes. So healing comes from the God of love. So, to look for healing and expect it to come from the God of sickness, well, that's just not going to happen, because sickness does not have healing to give. And it's love that has healing to give. Because love is peace, love is joy. Okay, so number 9, only the eternal can be loved, for love does not die. Okay, so that's getting to the core of our identity and the truth, and what God is, eternal, and that's what we are, eternal. And only the eternal can be loved, for love does not die. Okay, so, all right, so now we're in paragraph 10. Okay, anything before we move on? No? Okay. You do not realize how much you have denied yourself and how much God, in his love, would not have it so. Yet he would not interfere with you because he would not know his son if he were not free. To interfere with you would be to attack himself, and God is not insane. When you deny him, you are insane. Would you have him share your insanity? God will never cease to love his son, and his son will never cease to love him. That was the condition of his son's creation, fixed forever in the mind of God. To know that is sanity. To deny it is insanity. God gave himself to you in your creation, and his gifts are eternal. Would you deny yourself to him? Okay, so so to deny God is sickness. And what that says is that we're denying ourselves. We are blocking ourselves from the knowledge of the truth of how we were created in love, as love, eternally, without change, without substitution. And so to deny God is insanity, as it says later on, okay, because it's not possible in truth. And basically that's what insanity is. It's believing what is impossible to be true. And yet God would not interfere with us. So if we want to deny God, God is saying, look, I created you free. I'm not going to interfere with that freedom, because freedom is unconditional love. And if I interfered, I would be opposing your free will. And our will is one. So I would not try to do something insane like that, because I would, God would have to believe in separation. So that would be to attack himself, and God is not insane. So it just means that to deny him means that we are insane, because we're believing that the impossible is possible. And so it's never happened. The separation has never happened. We just believe that it has, and protect that idea so that we block out the awareness of that truth. That's all. So our creation is eternal, like it said before in the previous paragraph, and therefore it cannot be changed. And I think earlier we were also reading that in denying something, we have to know the truth first. I think it was in one of the lessons, if I remember correctly. So the denial is not a denial of the truth. It's a denial of the awareness of the truth. Do you see that? Do you see the difference? Yeah. So, okay, 11, paragraph 11. Sonia?
Okay. Out of your gifts to him, the kingdom will be restored to his son. His son removed himself from his gift by refusing to accept what had been created for him and what he had created in the name of his father. Heaven waits for his return, for it was created as the dwelling place of God's Son. You are not at home anywhere else or in any other condition. Do not deny yourself the joy that was created for you, for the misery you have made for yourself. God has given you the means for undoing what you have made. Listen, and you will learn how to remember what you are. So the gifts in line 1, out of your gifts to him, the kingdom will be restored to his son. The gifts is forgiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yes.
not deny yourself. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Listen, and you will learn how to remember what you are.
Yes. So forgiveness is healing. It's how we remember the truth of what we are. Because remember, we're remembering that what my brother did to me, which is projection, never happened. So it's a liberation from projecting. Um, and it's only projecting that imprisons our will. So let's see. See line number 6, God has given you the means for undoing what you have made. So we have made the God of sickness as an idol. But God, the true God, not our idol, gives us the means, the Holy Spirit, and our function to forgive for undoing what we have made as the God of sickness, an idol. So that's why it's called a Course in Miracles, because the Holy Spirit is guiding us and helping us to heal our mind so that we can, which is an undoing of what we have made, which is sickness of the mind. And that's the miracle, is the change from perceiving with the ego to perceiving with vision with the Holy Spirit. And that releases guilt because the vision only sees innocence, which is the truth of how we were created. And that's how you learn to remember what you are. Yes, so the kingdom. Yeah, so what is it saying in line 2, Sonia?
Line 2, his
Yeah.
son removed himself from his gift by refusing to accept. So that's essentially saying that his son, which is us, me, decided to remove myself to try to separate from him by refusing to accept my creator. So it's kind of like the authority problem. Like, no, I want to be separate. So I'm going to refuse him that created me.
Yeah.
And try to just remove myself from the equation to be self-created.
Yes, as a separate will, quote unquote, right? Mm-hmm. That can oppose the quote unquote, the will of God, which cannot be opposed because it's what we are. So when we oppose and follow our own ego will, we're actually opposing our own true will, which is the will of God.
I'm sorry, I just realized why my computer failed to work.
Okay.
You just said it. Yeah, because so my computer I was, happy, just like kind of trying to be super productive, on my computer, whatever, gonna, post some stuff to my shop. And then my computer just completely just shuts off, like just entire blackout. I have no idea why. I have never seen this in my life. Don't know. I tried everything to fix it. it was a system failure, it's an internal system failure. Something, probably the motherboard got fried or something. But anyway, I was trying to do something. I was trying to do something that was not in my best interest. I think I was trying to make something of myself, trying to do things for myself. And so I think that's what fried my computer.
You're projecting the sickness onto the computer.
Yeah, so that's why
Yeah,
it just went
it just went,
exploded.
yeah,
Yeah.
exploded.
Anyway.
Yeah, it sounds about, yeah. Because remember that everything that happens to us is a reflection of what is in our thinking, what we are, what we are following or allowing to be in mind. So yeah, so that's kind of the feedback loop. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Number 12, Connie.
If God knows his children as wholly sinless, it is blasphemous to perceive them as guilty. If God knows his children as wholly without pain, it is blasphemous to perceive suffering anywhere. If God knows his children to be wholly joyous, it is blasphemous to feel depressed. All of these illusions and the many other forms that blasphemy may take are refusals to accept creation as it is. If God created his Son perfect, that is how you must learn to see him, to learn of his reality. And as part of the sonship, that is how you must see yourself, to learn of yours.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's see. Yes, so to see suffering, I mean, that is so common, that let me see. I think what it is that the mind conditions itself to accept what is not true as normal, right? To feel depressed, to see suffering, to if you have a condition, some kind of condition, chronic condition, for example, maybe if you've had it for many years. I was working with a client this morning, and she said, "Well, this condition to me is like normal." I go, "Well, what do you mean, like normal? You think that sickness is normal?" She says, "Well, it almost feels like it's not going to go away, like it's here here and has basically replaced the truth of of love." Because I was saying, well, are you believing that that it's a condition that you have to accept because it's it's something. Well, she was believing, obviously, that she wasn't the one that was making it up. She was saying, well, it's coming from, not from me, it's coming from God. Maybe it's because there's a lot of guilt under there. So there's a belief that it's punishment. So yeah. And so God knows his children as wholly sinless. Okay. So it is blasphemous to perceive them as guilty. So, but it seems so common, that what it's saying to us here is that that if God knows his children to be holy joyous, it's blasphemous to feel depressed. So all of these are illusions, and the many other forms that blasphemy may take are refusals to accept creation as it is. So now we have to like retrain the mind to see what is normal, because there's all this conditioning that the mind has little by little accepted what is not true to be normal, because that's the experience. That's all the past experience that someone may have. And, we have to go back to the very beginning and say, well, no, you, you were healthy at one time, were you not? Wasn't that the norm? So, we have to decide, wait a minute, okay, which came first? What are you saying? That our true nature is to be sick, that God created us as sick bodies? So we really have to look at our beliefs. And of course, it goes down to the very core, which is the belief that we're a body. So, so if God created his son perfect, okay, God could not have created us as a body. Okay. So whenever we see ourselves or others as bodies, we're not going to be able to see the perfection that God created us with. And that's what we need to learn. That's what we need to learn, is we need to learn to see ourselves as God created us. And, there's a few lessons there. I'm not a body. I am free. I am as God created me. There's quite a few lessons around, not that we're not bodies. We're eternal creations. So, yeah. Okay, 13. Teresa?
Do not perceive anything God did not create, or you are denying him. His is the only fatherhood, and it is yours only because he has given it to you. Your gifts to yourself are meaningless, but your gifts to your creations are like his, because they are given in his name. That is why your creations are as real as his. Yet the real fatherhood must be acknowledged if the real son is to be known. You believe that the sick things you have made are your real creations, because you believe that the sick images you perceive are the sons of God. Only if you accept the fatherhood of God will you have anything, because his fatherhood gave you everything. That is why to deny him is to deny yourself. Wow. So to me, this is saying sentence 8 is probably the perfect summary. That is why to deny him is to deny yourself. I think the hardest challenge for me is looking out at the world and thinking that the physical is real. It seems so real. And yet all of acceptance of that is not an illusion, is denying God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, line 6, you believe that the sick things you have made are your real creations, because you
Exactly.
believe, that the sick images you perceive are the sons of God. And the way we do that is through judgments. So, for example, I was working with a client, and we were tapping on her sisters. So her younger sister, she saw her as good and sweet, but her older sister was the opposite. Because the memory she has is that her older sister was always really that was basically tormenting her, and the younger sister was always supporting her. But what she did was that she made an identity of their behavior. So the sister was associated with embarrassment, with rage, with attack, and the other sister was associated with with sweetness, with support, with coming to her defense. Okay. So once she made the identities of her sisters into their behavior, she split her mind because now sister is good and sister is bad. So she made opposites of the idea of sisters. And once we do that, we forget that they're the same, because they are both created by the same creator, and they are both perfect, okay, because they're not their behavior. So that's how we make, that's how we believe the sick images that we perceive, because we believe that our judgment has the power to change the creations of God into an image that we see through our judgment. So we have to be able to let that go. We have to be able to let go of our judgments, because that's not the truth. So it's a distortion of the truth. Yeah. So we do not create ourselves. I mean, we think we do through our own judgments. This is what I think I am. I'm good. I'm bad. I'm always comparing myself. I'm labeling, and and then I think that I am my labels, and that you are the labels that I label you. But all of those are images. They're self-images that are distortions, incomplete and imperfect. So forgiving all that, letting all that go, is what brings us back to the recognition of being a creation of God. And see line 5, yet the real fatherhood must be acknowledged if the real son is to be known. So that's why we have a confusion, an identity identity problem. Who am I? Because we've made all these false self-images, and now we don't know who we are. But until we recognize our fatherhood, our true creator, we're not going to be able to recognize the truth of what we are as the Son of God. Yeah. And that's line 8. That's why to deny him, to deny God, the fatherhood of God, is to deny ourselves, our own identity as the Son of God. So, okay, 14. Connie? Oh no, let's see, it's my turn. It's my turn. Arrogance is the denial of love, because love shares and arrogance withholds. As long as both appear to you to be desirable, the concept of choice, which is not of God, will remain with you. While this is not true in eternity, it is true in time, so that while time lasts in your mind, there will be choices. Time itself is your choice. If you would remember eternity, you would look only on the eternal. If you allow yourself to become preoccupied with the temporal, you are living in time. As always, your choice is determined by what you value. Time and eternity cannot both be real, because they contradict each other. If you will accept only what is timeless as real, you will begin to understand eternity and make it yours. Okay, so this is how we begin to let go of the idea that physicality is reality in the last line, Teresa. Remember we were talking about that? If you will accept only what is timeless as real. Okay, so we're going back to the foundation and saying, okay, look, we have been saying that reality is what we encounter in time. Okay, and what we encounter in time is not eternal. It has a beginning and an end. Okay, so what we've done by accepting that belief is we've made the eternal unreal. So it's upside down. Okay, and this is turning it back right side up. And it's saying, no, look, you have it backwards here. You have it reversed. Okay, it's the timeless that is real because it's eternal and it's non-changing. Okay, so if you always go back to that, you'll remember that everything that has a beginning and an end is an illusion because it's not eternal and therefore it cannot be real. And so we begin to let go of the body identity that way, and we begin to let go of the fear of death, because that's, physical things like the body have an end. They have a beginning at birth, and then they have an end. That's part of time. Okay, and then line 8, it's saying, okay, look, both time and eternity cannot both be real. They contradict each other. So you have to make up your mind. Which one are you going to believe? So we decide what we want to believe. And in that decision, we're going to have beliefs that are in alignment with truth or beliefs that are contradictory and not in alignment with truth. And therefore will block the awareness of those thoughts that are a reflection of eternity. So we're blocking our own awareness of truth by holding on to the beliefs that contradict truth, which is the ego thought system. And then 7 says, yes, and when we do that, okay, it's a matter of valuing, because what we believe, we value. Anything we value, we're going to believe. So that, I think up here earlier it said, let's see. Yes, so 6, if you allow yourself to become preoccupied with the temporal, you are living in time. And therefore we are giving value to the ideas, to a world that is a projection of those ideas of separation from eternity. So it's not that we have to, to not value something doesn't mean that you hate it. It just means that you withdraw your belief from it because you recognize it has no real value. Okay, otherwise we go into that duality again, where, let's see, where I judge something valuable and something not valuable. So I discard it, I reject it, I throw it away, or I hate it, I go the other way. Okay, so sometimes the mind can be very polarized. Our split mind can be very polarized, and we're like, okay, well, if I don't like you, then I dislike you, or if I don't love you, then I hate you. And it gets very, very split. Yeah, so the choice in time is determined by what we value. So either we're going to value the timeless, the eternal, or we're going to value that what is not eternal. And, to value what is not eternal comes with a lot of pain and suffering, because we lose those things that we value. Okay, whether it's, something that my grandmother left me and it broke, or whether it's a relative that I loved and who passed, with COVID or something. There's, if I am perceiving them as a body, I'm going to experience loss. So there's a lot of suffering that goes with valuing the things of the world that aren't eternal. Yeah. And so it's very interesting because it says, if you allow yourself to become preoccupied with the temporal, you are living in time. And time is really an idea in our mind. So the self that lives in time is an image that we made of ourselves as having separated from eternity and that now lives in time. It's not the true self. We could say that that's the ego, because we're identified with the ego, and it's the ego that believes it lives in time because it believes it's separate from eternity. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, so the piece of sharing here, first line, arrogance is the denial of love. So it's actually saying that sickness is a denial of love, because that's what it started with, that sickness is a denial of love. So arrogance is sickness because love shares and arrogance withholds. And so sickness is a form of withholding, withholding the truth from ourselves because we're blocking our own awareness of what the truth of what we are. And so it's a decision that says that how I was created is somehow not valuable enough that I have to separate from that. So that's why the arrogance comes into play here, because to make the judgment that love, which is unconditional, is not enough, does require, to believe that I am greater than unconditional love, to be able to judge it as not valuable enough. Okay. All right. So any questions? Anything with this section? Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and stop here. So thank you for joining us. Until next time.